Lately we all heard about companies moving out of China. But, have you ever thought how China became the biggest manufacturing hub? And how China became the second largest economy in the world? So, hang in there, as this video is going to be worth watching. Today we see China as an economical superpower. Today they have big cities, highways, airports, and good lifestyle. Yet it was not the same 40 years ago. China's journey from one of the poorest country to the second largest economy in the world has been interesting. So today in this video, we are going to see what China did to become the biggest manufacturing hub, and also one of the biggest economy. Let's start with the history of economic growth. In 1949, after the Communist Revolution, Chinese economy was badly hit by continuous civil wars. China was poorer than some of the African nations that time. Under the leadership of Mao Zedong, China adopted Soviet economic model. Mao started a campaign called Great Leap Forward. Under this campaign, Mao tried an industrial transformation of farming by communal system. But this campaign failed, and caused economic breakdown and death of millions. Even after this economic crisis, Chinese politicians always focused on occupation of Taiwan, occupation of Tibet, and the India-China War. For Chinese politician, one China policy was important than the economic growth of China that time. But things started to change after 1979. In 1979, China opened its foreign trade and investment by implementing free market reforms. All these reforms were made possible by Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was known as the architect of modern China. Under his leadership, China shifted its economic policies from socialist economy to capitalist economy. After 1979, the average GDP growth of China was 9.5% till 2018. China has lifted more than 700 million people out of poverty in last 40 years. China's share in global economy increased from 1.8% in 1979 to 18.4% in 2018. The pace of Chinese economy was described by the World Bank as the fastest sustained expansion by a major economy in history. So what reforms did China made to become the second largest economy? And that too in just 4 decades. Let's see. Creating special economic zones. These are intended to function as zones of rapid economic growth by using tax and business incentives. This was to attract foreign investment and technology. The first 4 special economic zones were created in 1980 in the southeastern coastal China. Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Shantou, and Xiamen are some of the first special economic zones of China. In these areas, the local government is permitted to offer tax incentives to foreign investors. And also they can develop their own infrastructure without the approval of central government. Business enterprises made most of their own investment, marketing, and production decisions. Also, foreign ownership of such ventures were legalized. These facilities attracted investors from the Western countries, and also from Japan, Singapore, and many more. As businesses grew, more and more migrants came in these special economic zones looking for jobs. And rapid growth begun in China. Special economic zones contributed significantly to the national GDP, employment, exports, and to attract foreign investment. It is estimated that in 2007, special economic zones accounted for about 22% of national GDP, about 46% of FDI, and about 60% of exports. It also generated about 30 million jobs. Shenzhen was one of the first 4 special economic zones in China. Shenzhen is the best example for success of special economic zones. Back then Shenzhen was a small town with population of 30,000 people. But today it is grown to 18 million people. Shenzhen is developed as an electronic manufacturing city. Or you can say it is the Silicon Valley of China. Everything that is needed to manufacture an electronic equipment is available there. It is like an ecosystem developed specifically for the electronic market. That's why all the big companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Sony have manufacturing units there. All these special economic zones have done the job of making China a manufacturing and a startup hub. Infrastructure development. Infrastructure development is the key factor in economic growth of any country. As China started to grow economically, the central as well as the local government began to invest heavily in infrastructure projects. China's infrastructure projects helped to make transportation efficient and fast for people as well as goods. This was an indirect help for economy to grow at much faster rate. In 1978, the total highway length in China was nearly 12 million kilometers. Now in 2018 it is 405 million kilometers. So highway length increased 44 times in the last 40 years. Similarly, the railway length in 1978 was 50,000 kilometers. In 2018 it increased to 130,000 kilometers. China also developed road connectivity with rural areas in the last decade for easy transportation of agricultural goods. China is not only developing its conventional infrastructure like transportation, energy sources, water conservancy, but they are also trying to develop modern infrastructure like 5G, artificial intelligence, industrial internet, and fiber optic communication. Educational reforms. Education plays an important part in development of any country. In 1978 China's total employed people were around 400 million. Yet in 2018 that number was 780 million. Plenty of job opportunities were created in the span of 40 years. And as we know, China is the largest population on earth. That means they don't have shortage of manpower. Also their labor cost was very cheap back then. Yet in 21st century, companies do not need only laborers. They need highly skilled manpower. So education plays a very important role in this. But more educated people does not mean more skilled labor. Chinese government is continuously trying to fill the gap between what market demands and what is taught in the education system. This is done by introduction of internships for college graduates. Also continues changes and introducing new technologies in school syllabus. And from past few years, vocational education in China played an important role to improve educational system. In 2017, employment of vocational college graduate surpassed the employment of university college graduate. China has the largest vocational education system in the world, and it enrolls nearly 30 million students each year. Chinese government also gives free vocational education for poor or migrant laborers. So, these skilled students are the backbone of Chinese manufacturing and service sector. Other factors also contributed for economic growth in China, like government support for companies to set up their manufacturing, creating ease of doing business, and China's manipulation of currency for stable currency exchange. This gives a slight advantage for manufacturers in China for global trade. Also tax concession or incentives attracted more foreign companies to China. So, this is how China made its manufacturing empire and became the second largest economy in the world. But, lately things are changing in China. Due to development of advanced robotics and automation, the labor job is now much easier and cost-effective. So companies do not need huge amount of cheap skilled labor nowadays. No matter you are manufacturing a product in US or China, using advanced machines will cost the same. So companies are preferring to move back to their country to save on the transportation cost. Also Chinese labor cost has increased tremendously in all these years. And due to this China is no longer a low-cost manufacturing hub. So those companies who still need a labor-intensive manufacturing, they are shifting to different developing countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and India for low labor cost. The another reason behind companies taking out investments from China is, it is not a democracy. Also because of the economic growth, China's global military power is big concern for West and the US. Similarly, trade war and the disputes in South China Sea are making China's economy more unsafe and unstable. So future of China's economy will be very different. Also China could lose big time to maintain its manufacturing segment, an economic position in the future. So we would like to know from you. Who would replace China's position? Tell us in the comment section below. We hope you liked this video. Please like, share and subscribe to Global Index to get more informative content like this. Also make sure to hit the bell icon to be notified every time we upload a new video. Thank you.